sea. The mirage had disappeared, and there was naught but rocks and sand, and the Supreme Brahma cursed them both to the lowest hell. Then it was that the man spoke, and I have liked him ever since for it. Curse me, but curse not her. It was not her fault, it was mine. That's the kind of man to start a world with. The Supreme Brahma said, I will save her, but not thee. And she spoke out of her fullness of love, out of a heart in which there was love enough to make all her daughters rich in holy affection, and said, If thou wilt not spare him, spare neither me. I do not wish to live without him. I love him. Then the Supreme Brahma said, and I have liked him ever since I read it, I will spare you both, and watch over you and your children forever. Honor bright, is that not the better and grander story? And in that same book I find this: man is strength, woman is beauty. Man is courage, woman is love. When the one man loves the one woman, and the one woman loves the one man, the very angels leave heaven and come and sit in that house and sing for joy. In the same book this: Blessed is that man, and beloved of all the gods, who is afraid of no man, and of whom no man is afraid. Magnificent character! A missionary certainly ought to talk to that man. And I find this: never will I accept private, individual salvation, but rather will I stay and work, strive and suffer, until every soul from every star has been brought home to God. Compare that with the Christian that expects to go to heaven while the world is rolling over Niagara to an eternal and unending hell. So I say that religion lays all the crime and troubles of this world at the beautiful feet of woman. And then the church has the impudence to say that it has exalted women. I believe that marriage is a perfect partnership, that woman has every right that man has, and one more, the right to be protected. Above all men in the world, I hate a stingy man, a man that will make his wife beg for money. What did you do with that $1 I gave you last week? And what are you going to do with this? It is vile. No gentleman will ever be satisfied with the love of a beggar and a slave. No gentleman will ever be satisfied except with the love of an equal. What kind of children does a man expect to have with a beggar for their mother? A man cannot be so poor but that he can be generous. And if you only have $1 in the world, and you have got to spend it like a lord. Spend it as though it were a dry leaf, and you the owner of unbounded forests. Spend it as though you had a wilderness of your own. That's the way to spend it. I had rather be a beggar and spend my last $1 like a king than be a king and spend my money like a beggar. If it has got to go, let it go. And this is my advice to the poor, for you can never be so poor that whatever you do, you can't do in a grand and manly way. I hate a cross man. What right has a man to assassinate the joy of life? When you go home, you ought to go like a ray of light, so that it will, even in the night, burst out of the doors and windows and illuminate the darkness. Some men think their mighty brains have been in a turmoil. They have been thinking about who will be alderman from the 5th Ward. They have been thinking about politics. Great and mighty questions have been engaging their minds. They have bought calico at 5 cents or 6 and want to sell it for 7. Think of the intellectual strain that must have been upon that man, and when he gets home everybody else in the house must look out for his comfort. A woman who has only taken care of 5 or 6 children, and 1 or 2 of them sick, has been nursing them and singing to them, and trying to make 1 yard of cloth do the work of 2. She, of course, is fresh and fine and ready to wait upon this gentleman, the head of the family, the boss. I was reading the other day of an apparatus invented for the ejecting of gentlemen who subsist upon free lunches. It is so arranged that when the fellow gets both hands into the victuals, a large hand descends upon him, jams his hat over his eyes, he is seized, turned toward the door, and just in the nick of time an immense boot comes from the other side, kicks him in italics, sends him out over the sidewalk, and lands him rolling in the gutter. I never hear of such a man, a boss, that I don't feel as though that machine ought to be brought into requisition for his benefit. Love is the only thing that will pay 10% of interest on the outlay. Love is the only thing in which the height of extravagance is the last degree of economy. It is the only thing, I tell you. Joy is wealth. Love is the legal tender of the soul. And you need not be rich to be happy. We have all been raised on success in this country, always been talked with about being successful, and have never thought ourselves very rich unless we were the possessors of some magnificent mansion, and unless our names have been between the putrid lips of rumor, we could not be happy. Every little boy is striving to be this and be that. I tell you, the happy man is the successful man. The man that has won the love of one good woman is a successful man. The man that has been the emperor of one good heart, and that heart embraced all his, has been a success. If another has been the emperor of the round world and has never loved and been loved, his life is a failure. It won't do. Let us teach our children the other way, that the happy man is the successful man, and he who is a happy man is the one who always tries to make someone else happy. The man who marries a woman to make her happy, that marries her as much for her own sake as for his own, not the man that thinks his wife is his property, who thinks that the title to her belongs to him, that the woman is the property of the man. Wretches who get mad at their wives and then shoot them down in the street because they think the woman is their property. I tell you, it is not necessary to be rich and great and powerful to be happy. A little while ago I stood by the grave of the old Napoleon, a magnificent tomb of gilt and gold, fit almost for a dead deity, and gazed upon the sarcophagus of black Egyptian marble, where rest at last the ashes of the restless man. I leaned over the balustrade and thought about the career of the greatest soldier of the modern world. I saw him walk upon the banks of the Seine, contemplating suicide. I saw him at Toulon. I saw him putting down the mob in the streets of Paris. I saw him at the head of the army of Italy. I saw him crossing the bridge of Lodi with the tricolor in his hand. I saw him in Egypt in the shadows of the pyramids. I saw him conquer the Alps and mingle the eagles of France with the eagles of the crags. I saw him at Marengo, at Ulm and Austerlitz. I saw him in Russia, where the infantry of the snow and the cavalry of the wild blast scattered his legions like winter's withered leaves. I saw him at Leipzig, in defeat and disaster, driven by 1,000,000 bayonets back upon Paris, clutched like a wild beast, banished to Elba. I saw him escape and retake an empire by the force of his genius. I saw him upon the frightful field of Waterloo, where chance and fate combined to wreck the fortunes of their former king. And I saw him at St. Helena, with his hands crossed behind him, gazing out upon the sad and solemn sea. I thought of the orphans and widows he had made. of the tears that had been shed for his glory, and of the only woman who ever loved him, pushed from his